Well, suffering succotash.
What?
Whatever happened to America first? I thought about this for quite some time. Does America first actually mean Americans first? Or are we just talking about the country in general? It's a nice slogan, but wait till you hear this.
A planned lunch meeting with Senate Republicans devolved into a shouting match after President Trump suddenly refused to sign a bipartisan bill aimed at fixing the nation's housing crisis, which overwhelmingly passed Congress.
I was disappointed because I thought that this had become a priority.
Democrats pounced.
And Donald Trump decides to have the toddler temper tantrum and announces he's not going to sign it. This bill that would help build more housing at a lower cost, that'll bring down prices.
A recent report found a nationwide shortage of 10 million homes. The bill would ban Wall Street investors from buying single-family homes and make it easier to construct homes, so they can instead be sold to families. Trump's own press secretary called it one of the most significant pieces of housing affordability legislation in American history. Lawmakers in both chambers were blindsided when President Trump called the bill a matter of minor importance on social media. Trump said he would not sign it unless Congress first signs his so-called SAVE Act, which would require Americans to show proof of citizenship to register to vote. The SAVE Act doesn't have the votes to pass in the Senate. Also a source of tension at the meeting, President Trump was furious at the Republican senators who voted with Democrats to limit his war powers in Iran. Overnight, two of those Republicans, Bill Cassidy and Rand Paul, changed their votes after a briefing from the White House. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson is set to meet with the president today to discuss the housing bill, among other issues.
Well. Every now and then, Washington does something so backwards you have to read it twice to believe it. In this case, Trump, but this is nothing new. This is one of those days because for once, both parties in Congress actually agreed on something that would help regular people. And the president just slammed the brakes on it, not because the bill was bad, but maybe this prevented his billionaire friends from buying up all the property and rising the cost and controlling a lot of the property here in America. I digress, but because he wanted to trade it for something else. So go ahead and pour your coffee, pour your whiskey, pour your rum, pour your water, whatever it may be. And let me show you exactly how your rent and your shot at owning a home just became a poker chip in somebody else's game.
Let's do this.
This past Wednesday, on June 24th, President Trump was supposed to sign a bipartisan housing affordability bill. This was not some small thing. This bill cleared the United States Senate 85-5. 85-5. In Congress, that can't agree on what day it is. Republicans and Democrats both voted for it. And what does this bill actually do? It does, quite frankly, two big things. It pushes to build more homes so there's more supply and prices come down. So high supply, low demand. But right now we have semi-supply, high demand, high inflation, high cost. So if you build more houses, they will have to deflate the prices in order for people to afford these homes. And this is the part that really matters. It caps how many single family homes that the big Wall Street investors are allowed to buy up. That's right. I've been seeing signs all over where I live at of Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's company, billionaire investor. Nothing against him. But again, a lot of these Wall Street investors are buying the homes and holding them for renovation, development, whatever it may be. And they're spiking up the prices for some of them. But nevertheless, at the last minute, the president canceled the signing. He said he won't put his pen to that housing bill until Congress first passes a completely different bill.
It's not easy doing what I do, is it?
Yep, the Save American Act, a voting bill. So let me say this very plain. A bill that can help you afford, me afford a home is now being held hostage to a fight about voting. That's the story we're talking about. Now let's get under the hood of this, because while the Wall Street piece matters to us, you felt this even if nobody put it since 2021. Big investors have been buying up around 25% of all single family homes sold in the country every single year. And do not forget what happened between 2019 and 2021. It was COVID. And during that time, no one was really buying houses. No one was really moving. And while no one was really moving, and while everybody was out of work and they was getting the stimulus package and they was really trying to stretch the American dollars, Wall Street billion-dollar investors came in and swooped up all the houses that people were going to buy when they had the money. See? And they don't spread it out evenly because researchers found that these firms zero in on the moderate income starter homes, the exact homes that a first-time buyer needs, not these extravagant, very expensive homes, $800,000, $1 million, 1.2, 1.5. No, the profit margin is too small. We need to go on the low end and buy these first-time buyer homes and raise the prices an extra $50,000 to $100,000. See, and they concentrate the hardest, believe it or not, in the Black and Latino communities. Right? In cities like Atlanta, the conversion of family homes into corporate rentals have been leading. That conversion of family homes into corporate rentals has been a leading reason Black home ownership went down. So when a hedge fund outbids a young Black couple by 20 grand in cash and turns the house into a rental, that's not a conspiracy theory. I know you've seen around your neighborhoods where this housing community, some billion-dollar Wall Street banker comes in, buy up all the property and then turn it into a rental property because they're holding you hostage. See, that is a documented trend. That's why this little line in the bill, the cap on the investors buying, it is a bigger deal for our community than the headline makes it sound.
America's going to be great again.
Through anything. From anywhere. However far. Whatever it takes. Because it all starts with LOVA. Your website, your app, all built on LOVA. Built right, kept running. LOVA did. So when you look at it, ladies and gentlemen, Trump canceled signing of landmark bipartisan bill aimed at lowering housing costs. And here's the thing. He canceled the approval of this landmark bill that aimed at lowering American housing costs just hours ahead of a planned signing ceremony at the U.S. Capitol. Both chambers of Congress had earlier approved the legislation in a rare, especially during this administration, bipartisan move, signaling how pressing the issue has become for American voters across the political divide. So Trump is now even against his own Republicans. See, the numbers behind the pain, let's really talk about where Black American actually stands on owning a home. Black home ownership is sitting around 44%. White home ownership is nearly 74%. That's a gap of more than 28 points and is getting worse for the young. Black Gen Z home ownership dropped from 16% down to 14% in just a couple of years. And here's a number that tells you why. For every $100 of wealth a white family holds, a Black family holds about 15.
Lordy, that would be really bad.
A home is the number one way working families in this country build wealth and then pass it on. That's when people were talking about generational wealth, because again, you build equity within your home. It's a long-term investment that in your will, in your trust, you can pass it down, and that equity now belongs to your siblings. That equity now belongs to your children. That equity now belongs to your legacy. When you get locked out of that, you don't just lose a house, you lose the head start your kids and grandkids were supposed to inherit. So a bill that supplies and pushes Wall Street back, for us, that's not a talking point, that is generational. So what's the hostage? The SAVE Act, right? Because here's a trade that the president is demanding. He wants the Save American Act passed first. On paper, it sounds simple. Prove you're a citizen before you register to vote. Most folks hear that and say, sure, sounds fine, but slow down and really look at how it actually worked. Under this bill, you have to show documentary proof of citizenship to register. I agree. And again, every time you move or change your name or update your registration, there has to be a better way. Even though I would like to believe, I don't know for sure, that most Americans will be able to produce these documents, but he's holding He's holding this housing bill hostage until he gets what he's want, even though the Republicans voted in as well, 85-5. I want you guys to think about that. This is a huge move when it comes to bipartisanship. Now, here's who that really hits. Research shows that more than 21 million American citizens don't have ready access to citizenship documents, right? People are not obtaining or keeping their social security card, their birth certificate, getting the passport. So this is going to affect roughly 20 million Americans. And unfortunately, nearly half of Black Americans under 30 don't have an ID with their current name and address on. You better go in and get it because, again, I believe that this American Save Act is going to happen. So Black folk, white folk, Asian folk, whoever folk you are, if you are American, you better get your affairs and your paperwork in order. And many other Black American folks that was born in the segregated South before the Civil Rights era would never issue a birth certificate at all. That's something to really look at and research. And we need to help out elderly Black folks in order to get this because, again, we don't know what's going to happen when it comes to this. And what's the problem here? It's supposedly solving, right? The problem is supposedly solving.
Really?
When Kansas tried a proof of citizenship rule, it blocked 31,000 eligible people from registering and caught 39 suspected non-citizens over 14 years. So when Utah reviewed more than 2 million voters, they found 1 non-citizen registration and 0 non-citizen votes.
Okay.
So it's like you're using a sledgehammer to swat a fly, and the sledgehammer lands hardest on grandmother's registration and on the young brother who just moved into his apartment. This is the part where folks need to slow down and really pay attention. That's the chip on the table, right? Follow the power. Now, let's be fair about this because that's what we do here. The president isn't wrong that the system rigged towards Wall Street. No. The Congress, the Democrats, the Republicans, they're not wrong. This bill, I can see the potential in that it should help Americans to buy more homes. He signed an executive order back in January aimed at stopping big investors from competing, right, with regular home buyers. That instant pushed Wall Street back out of the neighborhood. It's the right one. This is the right move. And plenty of conservatives and progressives agreed, which is how you get to 85-5, no less. So that's exactly why the hostage move is so frustrating what President Trump is doing. The win was already on the table. And I know there's going to be so many Donald Trump, President Trump apologists. He's a businessman. This is negotiation. The SAVE Act can do what?
I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do.
What can the SAVE Act do before the housing bill? I know if you're a politician in Washington, if you're a politician in this country, there's a compromise and negotiation in these bills. But this is something you wrote in the executive order and signed the executive order. But now you're not getting what you want, which he's always gotten what he's want. Like there's been very, very few things this term, Trump 47 has not gotten. But again, if he doesn't get everything he wants, he's not going to do anything for who? The American people. Because again, this ain't just about Black folk. This is about everybody who wants to own a home. But he don't care nothing about that, right? He's saying, well, I'm not going to sign this bill that's going to help Americans to buy homes. But again, I don't want these non-citizens in the country, even though we've taken millions and millions of people and noticed that one person was a non-citizen. Again, the sledgehammer with the fly. See, the win was already on the table. The pen was already out. And instead of signing the thing that helps your family right now, it got tied to a voting fight that could make it harder for your family to register. Even his own Senate leader, John Thune, says the votes aren't there to pass the SAVE Act the way that the president wants it. It would really take blowing up the filibuster. And Thune says that that's not happening. So the housing relief sits in limbo while the grown folks argue. Lord have mercy on my soul.
Holy shit, there's a lot of news.
See, that's the thing about power, family. When government officials make decisions behind closed doors, regular people are usually the last ones to find out, like you and I. But the first ones, we're the first ones to feel the consequences, are we not? The investor down the street isn't waiting on Congress. He's still buying. Rent's still climbing. Asking rents are about 29% since 2020. a great state, all these southern states, all these northern states, where they was really trying to, in some instances, somewhat socialize housing to a point where they put a cap on much housing costs in certain neighborhoods and communities for people in those communities that own the homes. But what did the investors do? They came in, put up all the property, and they put rental property because they want you into a perpetual state of renting and never owning anything in this country. Every week, this bill, since unsigned, is another week the cash buyers keep winning. And let me bring this all the way down to the kitchen table because that's where this lives. A starter home in a Black family isn't just a shelter. It's the asset you borrow against when your kids get into college. It's the equity you tap when the car dies or the medical bill hits. It's the thing you leave behind so your grandbabies don't start from zero like you did and I did. Every time a corporate buyer turns on one of those homes into a rental, that's one less door a Black family can ever walk as an owner. And the rent on that same house climbs faster than wages. So the family that was on track to buy is now stuck renting the house they almost own. Whatever her to rent to buy, whatever happened to it, it's going to continue to be that way. See, that's how a wealth gap doesn't sit still. It grows quietly, house by house. Now, somebody's going to say, well, it's just one bill. It'll get sorted out. Maybe. We don't know. But understand the game being played here. The housing release is a thing that everybody wants. Everybody, 85 senators, both parties and the public. The SAVE Act is a thing that couldn't pass on its own. You didn't even have bipartisanship like you did with this particular bill. Can we pass the bill that everybody agrees on?
Here we go again.
So you strap the unpopular thing to the popular thing and dare people to vote no. That's not governing, family. That's called leverage. And the only reason it works is that they're betting you won't connect the two. We're just connecting them. And the people who are going to agree with this are the Trumpsters, all the MAGAs, because they're going to say he's a businessman, he's negotiating for America first. There's American first agenda so we can get all these non-citizens and illegals out of our country. And this is the reason why he's holding hostage. And these are people who are probably planning not to sell their homes. They're probably planning not to move. We have to connect the dots here. So here's what I want you watching. Does the president actually sign the housing bill, or does he let a real bipartisan win die over an unrelated demand? Now, I heard some rumblings this morning, no less, that if he doesn't sign it in 10 days, it's going to automatically become law. We'll see how that turns out. But watch whether the SAVE Act gets jammed through reconciliation to dodge a filibuster, because that's the back door. Watch your own state, because some states are already rolling out their own proof of citizenship rules without waiting on Congress. So while you're at it, pull up your own voter registration and make sure your name and address are current right now before any new rule lands. Because here's the big picture. No matter what's going on with race relation and police brutality, economics is still the number one problem in Black America, right? We understand that we don't have jobs for teenagers. We don't have jobs for people under 30. When we don't have jobs for people over 40. What happens in the Black community? What happens in the Black neighborhoods? Crime rise. And this is not just a Black problem. This is a world problem. It's been proven statistically from the dawn of time. When you don't have jobs in demographics, when you don't have jobs in certain neighborhoods and community, it's been proven worldwide that violence rises because some people, quote unquote, are going to get it out the mud, and they're going to get it any way possible. So they know this. This is nothing new to anybody. Oh, maybe you can create this and create that. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? You need money to start building a business. Oh, you just build your own business. You need money. And if you don't have the opportunity, if you don't have a job, if you don't have a career, if you don't have a savings account, if the young people can't start to establish and build wealth, then guess what? They're going to get it out the mud, so to speak. See, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. This is not making excuses, but these are the reasons why these things occur. Nobody wants to talk about the reasons why there are these issues within the Black community, just as well as any other community, by the way, because we're not going to keep pointing out Black people, not point out everybody else. all these black bootlicks and influencers on TV, that's the only thing they love is shooting down at their own kind, but never shooting up or left or right. Right?
Yes, he did.
Candace Owens, right? Officer Tatum, right? Andrew Tate, right? Jesse Lee Peterson, Larry Elder, the Harsh twins. I hear your comments, ladies and gentlemen. I haven't forgotten about nobody. Okay? I haven't forgotten about nobody. It's just so many. I just forget. It's just so many around me that I forget. Stephen A.
We have a problem.
They go back and forth, right? Whatever fits their narrative and fits their pocket and feeds their base and influences so they can keep donate. Boy, you crazy. But here's the big picture. Housing and voting look like two separate stories, but today they're tied together by one rope: power. Who gets to build wealth, who gets to cast a ballot, and the same families standing on the wrong side of the home ownership gap are the same families standing in the crosshairs of that registration rule. That's not an accident, that's a pattern. And we're going to keep watching it. Nevertheless, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, support the channel, and share this video with somebody who needs to hear the truth behind the headlines because, boy, everybody lies, especially politicians.
Period.